Welcome back to Learning with Ms. H. Today we are going to talk about dimensional analysis. So I've got my document camera out here for us to take a look at, and we're going to go through the process of dimensional analysis and work through a couple of problems together. You hopefully should have learned this during either a math class or a chemistry class, and if you have and you don't need a refresher, go ahead and turn me off and get started on your homework. If you need a refresher or you need to learn, please follow along with me. Write down the steps of the process as we go. Write down the examples as we go so that you can learn how to do this. The process is the same every time you try to convert from one factor to another. And that's what dimensional analysis is. We're going to make an equation to turn one value into another. So step number 1 is to place a given value on the far left of the equation. The given value is the number we know. So our problem that we're going to start off with here is if we have 32 inches of string, how many feet do we have? I'm going to go ahead and write this equation down here, but I don't actually give myself enough space. You want to give yourself a good inch, inch and a half between the value that you're given and the equal sign. My 32 inches is a little bit too close to my equal sign for me to work this, so I'm going to fix that with a note card here in a minute. But for you guys, go ahead and give yourself about an inch before you write that equals sign down. So our given value is 32 inches. That goes on the left. And then we're going to actually place that over a 1. So step number 2 is to place the given value over 1. So draw a line underneath 32 inches and put a 1 down there. Remember that anytime you have a number over 1, it's the same as having a whole number. So 32 inches is the same as 32 inches over 1. Step number 3, on the far right-hand side of our new equation, we're going to put down the value that we're trying to get into, the value we're trying to find. This is our unknown. In our case, it's going to be feet. So 32 inches is our given on the far left. Blank feet is the value we're trying to find. It goes to the right of the equals sign. Again, make sure you're writing these steps down because you're going to go through this process every time you try to convert from one factor to another. And now I'm going to go ahead and get out a note card and give myself a little bit of extra space here so that I have some more room to write so it's not all scrunched together. Hopefully this will help you be able to see it a little bit easier as well. So step 1, 32 inches on the far left. Step 2, put it over 1. Step 3, set it equal to blank feet because that's what we're going into. Step number 4, this is the easiest step in the entire process. You're going to put a little X next to the 32 inches on the right-hand side. And that's going to show that we're going to multiply 32 inches by something in order to turn it into feet. So step number 4, place the X to the right of the 32 inches to indicate that we're going to multiply. We have to multiply it by something in order to change it. Step number 5 is the most confusing for everyone. It's the hardest one for everyone to wrap their minds around. We're going to end up finding what's called a conversion factor, or a unit that connects inches to feet. It has to connect your given to your unknown. So we have to determine what that value is. The way that we're going to determine that is by finding the relationship. If you don't know the relationship, you can Google it. You can look on objects nearby. You can look on tables. Your homework actually has a table of those values. You have to be able to recognize those relationships and recognize that there are a certain number of inches in a foot. We call those relationships conversion factors. And that's what we're going to put in that empty space there. So for us, if we don't know that there are 12 inches in a foot, we could just pull out a ruler and take a look. It's a pretty simple one. So our conversion factor, otherwise known as a CF throughout the video, is 12 inches equals 1 foot. So I'm going to write that down here for you. Now here's the catch with conversion factors. You're going to place them next to your given, but you can place either number on top. And the way that you determine which number goes on top is because you want those units to cancel. Basic tenet of math, what goes up must come down. If they're on top and bottom, they're going to cancel out. So if you have inches on top and you want to get rid of inches, you have to place inches on bottom. That's how it works. It's a rule of math. So what we're going to do is we're going to place our 12 inches on the bottom when we write our conversion factor in there. That's going to cancel out our inches for us. It is also effectively going to put feet on top, which is right where we want them. If we were working this the opposite way and we started with feet, we're getting to inches, we would just flip it upside down. They are interchangeable, top and bottom. So, since we want to get rid of inches, we put 12 inches on bottom, and we're going to put 1 foot on top, because that is our conversion factor. 12 inches equals 1 foot. Anytime during these videos, feel free to pause, catch up, rewind if you need to. So here we have inches on top and bottom. We're going to cancel out. Our 1 foot goes on top. We have the units we're trying to get to, so we are actually finished finding conversion factors on this one. We're going to place our equal sign and do the math. 32 times 1 is 32. 1 times 12 is 12. And now we're just going to divide that out to get our answer. This is a very simple problem. If this was more complicated and we were not yet in our final units, we might need to find more conversion factors to make it the rest of the way. We'll do some of those more complicated ones later, but you're going to continue to repeat step 5 and step 6 until you get where you're trying to go. So you may have to use 2 or more conversion factors. Step 8, we've actually already started. Step 8 is do the math. So 32 times 1 is 32. 1 times 12 is 12. Now that we're at that point, we're going to divide that out. Feel free to use a calculator when you're doing the math. It's totally fine. I've already done this and determined that 32 divided by 12 is 2.67 feet. So our answer is 2.67 feet. Hopefully that one was pretty simple for you. Again, when you do this on your homework, all of those conversion factor values are going to be given to you in a table. So all you have to do is pick the right ones. We're going to go ahead and do another example here. So example number 2, we have an object that weighs 6 pounds. LBS is pounds. And we're going to try and figure out how much does that weigh in kilograms. So how much does an object weigh in 6 kilograms if it weighs 6 pounds? Our conversion factor for this is 2.2 pounds is equal to 1 kilogram. Hopefully you know that already from previous science or math classes. If not, again, you can always Google it. So remember, when you have a conversion factor, you can put it on there with either number on the top. So for our previous example, 12 inches equals 1 foot. You want to make sure that you pick a conversion factor that has both feet and inches in it, because those are the values you're given. So 12 inches for your given value, 1 foot for your unknown value. Okay. And again, remember, you can put that with either number on top or bottom, and you determine that by how you can cancel out variables. So I'm going to have you go ahead and work out this second problem. Go ahead and pause the video, work it out, and then come back and go through it with me and double check your work. Make sure you did it right. Okay, so when we're working this problem out, you have 6 pounds as your given number. Remember, that goes on the far left. We're going to place it over 1. Then we have our equal sign and our kilograms on the far right. So we're through step 3. Place our X to show multiplication. Determine a relationship. This one I gave it to you. 2.2 pounds is a kilogram. So we know that that's our relationship. So now you have to figure out how to put it on here. We want pounds to cancel. So you have to have your pounds on bottom and your kilograms on top. So 2.2 pounds goes on bottom, 1 kilogram on top. We'll cancel out our pounds, leaving just our kilograms on top. We're in the value that we need, so we don't have another conversion factor, so we're going to do the math. 6 times 1 is 6, 1 times 2.2 is 2.2. And when we divide that out, you get 2.7 kilograms. So our answer is 2.7 kilograms. Anytime you're doing these, make sure you put a box around your answer so that I can see very clearly what your answer is. We're going to go ahead and do a third example now, and I'm going to do it at the bottom of the page here so I have a little bit more room. This one's going to be a little more complicated. In order to do this example, we're going to need more than one conversion factor. So this will be one where we have several steps. So in this problem, you have 12 centimeters of string. How many feet of string do you have? So we're trying to get from centimeters to feet. So from centimeters into feet. Again, on your homework, you're going to be given a box that has some relationships listed out, and you will have to pick which relationships you're going to use. That's the most complicated part, is picking which relationships you need. For this one, we know that 2.54 centimeters is equal to 1 inch, and we know that 12 inches are in a foot. So I'm going to have you pause here and see if you can figure out how to put those conversion factors together to make an equation, and then come back and work through it with me. I'll show you how. Okay, so we're going to work through this the same way we did before. It's the exact same process. We just have that step number 7 where we're going to repeat it with more conversion factors if necessary. So step number 1, we're going to take our given value of 12 centimeters and put it on the far left. Then we're going to put it over 1. Our value we're trying to find is going to go to the far right, and that's going to be feet. So our unknown is feet. So now we need to find a relationship between centimeters and feet. Now when you do this, if there's not a direct relationship between the two, you know you're going to need multiple steps. So you can actually work from the two ends towards the middle. So 12 centimeters, you've got one of these values has centimeters in it. You know you need to cancel centimeters out eventually. So let's pick that one to start. You can put these in any order. It will eventually work out the same. It's just a little bit easier to put similar values next to each other to keep it straight in your head. So we're going to try and cancel out centimeters, so we want those on bottom. So we'll have 2.54 centimeters on bottom and 1 inch on top, because that's our conversion factor. So we're going to be able to cancel out our centimeters, but we're not there yet because we have inches on top instead of feet. So we have at least one more step that we need to go through. So we're going to put another X for multiplication again. And we're going to have another conversion factor here. The relationship between inches and feet is 12 inches equals 1 foot. We want our inches to cancel, so those have to go on bottom. So we'll have 12 inches on bottom and 1 foot on top. So now we should be able to cancel out our inches, and we have feet on top where we want them. So when we do the math, you have 12 times 1 times 1 on top, 2.54 times 12 on bottom. Go ahead and feel free to grab out your calculator for that if you need to. My inches cancel out because I have 1 on top and 1 on bottom. So 2.54 times 12, we get 30.48. So we have 12 feet over 30.48. There's our canceled inches. Now, when you're looking at this, there's actually one more thing you can cancel out on here to make this a little bit easier on yourself. You can do the math here, 12 divided by 30.48, and come up with the answer, 0.39 feet. It's perfectly fine. We've got our units canceled out. This is actually a correct answer. But if you wanted to make the math a little bit easier on yourself, there is one other thing that you can cancel out before you do the math. Can you see what it is? I'm going to give you a second to take a look at the problem and see if you can figure out what else cancels. Do you see it? We've canceled out all the units we possibly can with centimeters on top and bottom, inches on top and bottom. We're left with feet on top where we want it. But if you look, we have 12 centimeters on top in that first segment, and we have 12 inches on bottom in the second segment. Even though the units have canceled, the 12s will also cancel because there's 12 on top and 12 on bottom. It's 3 separate sections, but you can imagine that as being all one line. So you have a 12 on top and on bottom. So now we have 1 times 1 on top and 1 times 2.54 on bottom. And that should be a much simpler problem for you to find the answer to. When we type that into the calculator, you'll see that we get the same result. So if you don't catch that 12 cancels, it's okay. You'll still get the right answer. So 1 divided by 2.54 is 0.39. So we still get 0.39 feet either way. All right, so you have a homework assignment that's been assigned that has several problems that deal with conversion factors. Some of them are values like this. Some of them are going to be temperature conversions, and you'll be given the formulas for those. Temperature conversions are very easy. They're plug and chug. It'll give you a temperature in Celsius, Fahrenheit, or Kelvin, and it will ask you to convert to another one, and you're just going to plug in the value you're given for the symbol and do the math. There are multiple problems like this that could be anywhere from one step to several steps. There's one on there that I think is maybe 4 steps. So keep practicing. Work your way down the page. They get more difficult as you go. Come back, watch this video as many times as you need to. On the lesson page, there's also a secondary video with a different instructor explaining the same type of process, the dimensional analysis. So if you need to hear it from somebody else, it is a YouTube video that's been posted that you can access from another class, another instructor who's put that information out there as well. But watch this as many times as you need to. Ask questions. Remember, you can always message me and tell me what you're struggling with. Please don't just say, help, I don't know what to do. Tell me what step in the process you're on and why you're struggling. What can you not figure out? Remember that step 5, determining a relationship, that's the step that almost always trips people up when they're struggling. They can't see the relationship between the values. So especially on these multi-step ones, if it's not something you're used to, like gallons to pints, there's not a direct relationship. Remember to work from the ends towards the middle. So start at the beginning with your given, find a value that has that given in it. So gallons equals quarts, and plug that in as your first conversion. Then, if you need to, if you can't find another value, you can move to the opposite end, to the right side of the equation, and work backwards. And look at a value that has pints in it, and place that closest to the equal sign on the left-hand side, so that you have your pints on top. And you can work your way from the two ends towards the middle if you need to get those relationships. Keep at it. Eventually you'll get enough steps in there that you can get to your answer. On your homework, all of the conversion factors that you need, all of the relationships that you need are given to you in the tables. It's all there, I promise. If you're doing this in the future and you are uncertain of what the relationships are, it is perfectly acceptable to Google that. All right, take care, good luck, and I will see you next time.